When my niece Lily graduated high school, I decided to gift her a laptop and cover her college deposit. I didn't do it for the applause. I did it because I genuinely care about her future, and I know how tough it can be to start that journey without the right support. I've been the cool uncle, the one without kids who steps up when the parents can't. I don't mind. I'm happy to do it. But that party, it changed everything. It was a sunny Saturday, the kind where the air feels alive, buzzing with potential. I pulled up to my brother Matt's house, the front lawn already packed with cars. His wife Sarah had gone all-out balloons tied to the mailbox, a massive congrats grad banner flapping above the garage, the whole Pinterest spread. I stepped inside, laptop bag in one hand, a six-pack in the other. Matt spotted me first, his face already flushed from what I guessed was his third or fourth beer. He clapped a hand on my shoulder the way he always does, like he's trying to prove something. "Hey, it's the ATM of the family," he boomed, a grin stretching across his face. "Everyone, let's give it up for Uncle Tony, the family's favorite cash machine." Laughter rippled through the room, a low, rolling wave that left my ears burning. I forced a smile, brushing it off like I always did. Matt's jokes had sharp edges meant to cut without drawing blood, but this one hit different. Maybe it was the way his eyes lingered on me, the way his grip tightened on my shoulder, like he needed to physically hold me in place for his audience. I handed the laptop to Lily, who practically tackled me with a hug. Her face lit up the kind of pure, unfiltered joy you don't see often in adults. She whispered a genuine "thank you, Uncle Tony," before scurrying off to show her friends. For a moment, it felt worth it. Then Matt clinked his bottle against his glass, calling for everyone's attention. To family, he started swaying slightly as he found his balance. To the ones who are always there, even when they've got no one of their own to come home to. My jaw tightened. I felt the heat rising in my neck. It was the kind of offhand remark he'd been slipping into conversations for years. A jab at my single status, my lack of a wife or kids, like it somehow made my life less meaningful. And a big thank you to Tony, the man who always shows up with his wallet wide open. He continued chuckling as a few of his high school buddies snickered, beers sloshing in their red cups. "Relax, Tony. You're used to paying for what you'll never have, a family." The room erupted in laughter, louder this time. I looked around, catching Sarah's uneasy glance as she picked at the label on her wine glass. Even my mom cracked a small, uncomfortable smile before looking down at the appetizer plate in her lap. My heart thudded in my chest, a slow, heavy beat that drowned out the chatter around me. I forced a grin, raising my own bottle in a mock toast, my fingers tightening around the glass. "Here's to the ones who don't take their family for granted." I said, my voice just loud enough to cut through the laughter. For a split second, the room quieted the echo of my words, settling into the awkward silence that followed. Matt's smile faltered, a flicker of confusion flashing in his eyes, before he quickly shifted gears, moving the attention back to Lily's achievements. I didn't stay much longer. I gave Lily a tight hug, whispered my goodbyes, and slipped out the back door while the party raged on inside. I drove home, my mind replaying his words over and over, the sting sharper each time. I wasn't angry. No anger would have been a relief. What I felt was deeper, heavier, like a stone settling in my gut. I'd been a fool, I realized. I'd let Matt's digs slide for years, brushing them off as harmless brotherly ribbing, but this time he'd crossed a line. That night, sitting alone in my quiet apartment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the family's punchline anymore. If they wanted to treat me like an ATM, fine. But they'd have to find a new one. A week passed after the party, and I stuck to my decision. I wasn't going to be the family ATM anymore. It felt oddly freeing, like dropping a heavy backpack you didn't even realize you'd been hauling around. I started letting calls go to voicemail, ignoring the family group chat, and even stopped checking in on Lily's college prep. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. Matt texted me a few days later. Just a casual, "Hey man, can you cover the pizza for family game night? We'll pay you back next time." I left him on read. An hour later, Sarah chimed in. "Hey, Tony, can you bring your usual case of craft beer? You know how Matt loves it." I ignored that one too. By the weekend, my mom called. I let it ring, watching her contact photo flash on my screen, my jaw clenched tight. Finally, she left a voicemail. Her voice tinged with that familiar mix of passive-aggressive concern. "Tony, I'm not sure what's going on, but you've been so distant lately. I know you don't have a family of your own, but that's why you need to stay close to us. Don't isolate yourself. Family is all we have." I deleted the message without listening to the rest. The thing is, it's easy to slip into old habits. I almost caved when Lily messaged me about her laptop. "Hey, Uncle Tony, thanks again for the laptop. You're the best. Also, could you help me set it up?" Dad tried, but he's not exactly tech-savvy. LOL. I actually had my thumbs hovering over the keyboard ready to respond before I caught myself. No. They wanted me as their convenient, ever-reliable backup plan. I wasn't doing it. Not this time. Instead, I got a text from Matt the next day. "Hey man, Sarah said you've been acting weird lately. Everything okay?" I didn't reply. A few hours later, another message. "Seriously, dude, what's up?" "You've been ghosting us. Don't be dramatic." I almost laughed. Dramatic. Right. This coming from the guy who had once thrown a fit at a family BBQ because someone forgot to bring his favorite IPA. Then a few days later, I got another message. This one was a bit different. It was from my mom. "Tony, Matt says you've been avoiding everyone. Please don't make this a thing. You know how your brother can be. He's stressed. Just let it go." That one stung. She'd always been quick to defend him, to brush off his jabs as harmless jokes or the result of his so-called stress. It made me realize just how deep this pattern ran. Matt was always the center of attention. The married brother, the family man, the one with responsibilities. I was the odd one out, the single uncle with too much disposable income and not enough responsibilities to be taken seriously. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group message from Matt. He'd decided to address the situation publicly, pulling the whole family into it. "Hey fam, not sure what's going on with Tony, but he's been ghosting me and Sarah. Maybe someone else can get through to him, just worried about my bro." I felt my jaw tighten as I read the replies that started flooding in. "Sarah, yeah, he's been MIA, hope everything's okay. Mom, I'm sure he's just busy. Tony, let us know if you're okay, honey. My cousin Sam, LOL, maybe he finally got a girlfriend and we're all just jealous." I felt the familiar burn of humiliation, but it quickly transformed into something colder, sharper. If they wanted to paint me as the distant, moody uncle, fine. I'd give them a reason. I spent the next few days cutting the financial ties I'd let them wrap around me over the years. First, I canceled the monthly auto payments I'd been making for Matt and Sarah's streaming subscriptions. Then I stopped the automatic renewals for Lily's tutoring apps and digital textbooks. I even called my bank to pull my name off the joint savings account my mom had talked me into opening just in case she ever needed help. I knew it would take a while for the fallout to hit, but I was patient. I had time. Then the texts started coming in. "Hey Tony, did you cancel the Netflix account? It's not working." Matt, "Tony, the car insurance company called. They said the payment bounced. Did you forget to set it up?" Sarah, "Uncle Tony, my laptop won't connect to Wi-Fi. Can you come over and fix it?" Lily? I didn't respond. That Sunday, my mom called again. I let it ring, but this time she left a message that I couldn't ignore. Her voice was trembling the way it only did when she was genuinely upset. "Tony, I don't know what's going on, but Matt said you're being difficult. I need you to come to Sunday dinner so we can talk this out. Family sticks together, remember? Please just let this go." I let out a slow breath as the message ended. She had no idea what she was asking for. They all thought I was just being difficult, that I'd eventually cave and slide back into my old role. They didn't realize that I had finally completely had enough. Ignoring them felt like stretching out after a long, cramped flight. I was finally reclaiming the space I hadn't realized I'd given up. But of course, Matt wasn't about to let me slip away that easily. It started small, as these things do. A text from Sarah. "Hey, did you cancel the Disney Plus? Lily's been trying to watch something, but it says the account is inactive." I left it on read. Then Matt fired off a few messages in quick succession. "Bro, what's going on? Why are you cutting us off? Is this about the joke at the party? Come on, man, don't be so sensitive." Sensitive. That word grated on me like sandpaper. I could feel the old patterns tugging at me, the years of conditioning telling me to just let it go to be the bigger person. But I couldn't. Not this time. Then the calls started. At first, I let them all go to voicemail, but the tone shifted quickly. Matt's initial attempts at being lighthearted. "Come on, Tony, stop ghosting me. Don't make me come drag you out for a beer," morphed into clipped, frustrated messages. "You seriously need to stop acting like a kid." It was a joke. "Family jokes around. You're being ridiculous." I deleted each one without listening to the end. Then my mom joined the effort. Her messages were softer, wrapped in a thin layer of concern, but they still carried that same unspoken expectation that I would come around. "Tony, honey, I'm sure Matt didn't mean anything by it. He's always had a rough way with words, you know that. Please come to Sunday dinner. We miss you." I felt my jaw tighten every time her name popped up on my screen. I loved my mom, but she'd been excusing Matt's behavior for decades, smoothing over his sharp edges while letting me take on the role of the steady, reliable one. The one who didn't need as much attention or concern. But it was the message from Lily that hit the hardest. "Hey, Uncle Tony. Are you mad at me? I feel like you've been avoiding us and I don't know why. Did I do something wrong? I miss you." I stared at that one for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I almost cracked, almost gave in. But then I remembered Matt's smirk at the party, his voice cutting through the room like a dull blade. "Relax, Tony. You're used to paying for what you'll never have, a family." No, I couldn't let myself fall back into that role. Not again. So I stayed silent. Then one Thursday evening, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and I briefly considered ignoring it, but the persistent chime pulled me off the couch. I swung the door open, and there stood Matt, hands shoved into the pockets of his worn-out jeans, a forced smile stretched across his face. "Hey, man," he said, leaning against the doorframe like we were still kids talking on the front porch. "You gonna let me in, or are you just gonna keep ghosting your own brother?" I leaned against the door, folding my arms over my chest. "What do you want, Matt?" His eyes flicked past me into the apartment, probably noticing the empty beer bottles on the counter, the half-eaten pizza on the coffee table. He cleared his throat. "Look, this is getting ridiculous. You're not just ignoring me. You're freezing out the whole family. Mom's worried Sarah's pissed, and Lily keeps asking what she did to make you mad. You've got everyone on edge." I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my voice steady. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you humiliated me in front of half the neighborhood." Matt's smile faltered, his cheeks flushing slightly. "Come on, Tony. That was just a joke. You know how I am. I didn't mean anything by it." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Right, just a joke. You've been joking like that for years, Matt, but this time you crossed a line." He shifted, clearly uncomfortable. I saw the cracks in his confident facade, the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Look, if this is about the money, just say so. If you're in a tight spot, I can help out. But don't shut us out over a dumb joke." The audacity of it nearly took my breath away. He genuinely believed I needed his help. I could feel the bitter taste of all the unsaid things rising in my throat, the years of being the backup plan, the financial crutch, the convenient punchline. "No, Matt," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "This isn't about money. It's about respect. Something you clearly don't have for me." He flinched, the color draining from his face for a brief moment before his usual defensive wall snapped back into place. He straightened, puffing out his chest a little. "All right, fine. Be mad. Act like a martyr if you want. But don't come crying to me when you realize you're alone because you pushed everyone away." He turned on his heel, stomping back down the apartment steps, his shoulders tense, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. I watched him go, my heart pounding, my hands trembling slightly. As I closed the door, the silence of my apartment wrapped around me heavier than before. I leaned against the door, closing my eyes for a moment. Maybe I was pushing them away. Maybe I was isolating myself. But for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. I thought cutting them off financially would send a clear enough message. I figured Matt and Sarah would eventually back off, maybe even apologize once they realized I was serious. But I clearly underestimated just how deeply they'd come to depend on my support. The texts and calls continued growing more frantic as the days passed. Matt, dude, why is the car insurance saying the payment failed? What's going on? Sarah, Tony. I know things have been tense, but can you at least help us out with Lily's textbooks this semester? You know how expensive these things are. Even my mom got in on it, her messages, a mix of guilt trips and passive-aggressive digs. Tony, you're putting unnecessary strain on your brother's family. Just talk to them. Be the bigger person. I deleted every one of them without replying. Then one morning, I got an email from Lily's college. Apparently, the initial deposit I'd paid had my contact information attached to her financial aid paperwork, and they needed my signature on a few forms. I paused, staring at the blinking cursor on my screen. This was it. This was the leverage I hadn't realized I'd been holding on to. I forwarded the email to Matt and Sarah without a single word. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Matt. I ignored it. He called again, then a third time. I silenced my phone, tossed it onto the couch, and went to make myself a strong cup of coffee. When I checked my phone again an hour later, it was flooded with messages. Matt, bro, what the hell? You need to sign this. They're saying without it, Lily's financial aid is on hold. Don't screw this up for her. Sarah, Tony, this is Lily's future. You can't just ignore this. We trusted you with this. I felt my jaw tighten as I read each message, my grip on the phone tightening until my knuckles turned white. I set the phone down, my heart thudding in my chest. They trusted me with this, no. They expected me to handle it, to fix it, to make their lives easier while they took me for granted. The final straw came later that afternoon when my mom called. This time I answered. Tony, she started, her voice already tinged with frustration. What is going on? Matt says you're refusing to help with Lily's college stuff. This isn't like you. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay steady. Mom, I'm not refusing to help. I'm just done being their safety net. She sputtered, clearly taken aback. What are you talking about? This is family. You don't just cut off family. I leaned against the kitchen counter, gripping the edge until my fingers ached. Family. You mean the same family that laughs at my expense, that treats me like a walking ATM, that expects me to just keep bailing them out without a second thought? She went quiet for a moment, the line crackling slightly. Tony, you're overreacting. Matt didn't mean any harm. He's always been a little rough around the edges. But you know he loves you. I let out a bitter laugh. Does he? Because it sure doesn't feel like it. I'm tired, Mom. Tired of being the punchline. Tired of being the one they turn to only when they need something. She sighed, the sound heavy and disappointed. You're being dramatic. Just come over for dinner. Let's talk this out as a family. I closed my eyes, the image of Matt's smug grin at the party flashing through my mind. The way he'd held his glass high, his words cutting deeper than I'd let on. No, I said, my voice flat. I'm done. I hung up before she could respond. My heart pounding so loudly I could feel it in my fingertips. I tossed my phone onto the couch, running a hand through my hair as the reality of what I'd just done hit me. I was truly cutting them off. For the next few days, the messages kept coming. First, they tried guilt. Sarah, please, Tony, don't do this to Lily. She doesn't deserve this. Matt, bro, stop being so petty. Just sign the damn papers. Then they shifted to anger. Matt, unbelievable. After everything we've done for you, you're really going to ruin this for Lily. You're a selfish, bitter jerk. Sarah, we always knew you'd end up alone. This just proves it. I felt the sting of those words, but I forced myself to brush them off. They didn't know how to react when I pushed back, when I refused to be the easy target. Finally, the messages stopped. I thought that meant they'd given up, that they'd finally realized I wasn't going to bend this time. But then late one night, there was a knock at my door. I froze, my heart racing as I glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. I approached the door slowly, peering through the peephole. Matt stood on the other side, his face pale and drawn, his fists clenched at his sides. For a brief moment, I considered ignoring him, letting him stand out there in the hallway until he gave up and left. But something in his expression made me pause. I opened the door just a crack, keeping my foot braced against it. What do you want, Matt? He hesitated, his jaw working as he struggled to find the right words. Tony, please just hear me out. I met his eyes, my own heart pounding, my fists clenched at my sides. This was it. the confrontation I'd been bracing for, and I wasn't backing down. I opened the door just enough to see him clearly. Matt looked rough, unshaven bags under his eyes and a tension in his shoulders I hadn't seen in years. He shifted uncomfortably under my gaze, his eyes flicking to the floor before meeting mine. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice lower than usual, almost humble. I hesitated, the urge to slam the door in his face, warring with the part of me that wanted to hear what he had to say. Finally, I stepped back, letting the door swing open. He shuffled in his hands, stuffed into his pockets, his eyes darting around my living room as if he was looking for some sign of the brother he used to know. I closed the door behind him, leaning against it as he turned to face me. "All right," I said, crossing my arms. "What do you want, Matt?" He ran a hand through his hair, letting out a long, shaky breath. For a moment, I thought he might actually break down, but he caught himself, his jaw tightening as he tried to muster some semblance of his usual bravado. "Look," he started, his voice strained. "I know you're mad. I get it. Maybe I pushed you too far at the party. Maybe I said some things I shouldn't have." I raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. "But this silent treatment, this freezing us out, it's not fair, Tony. You're punishing the whole family because I made a dumb joke." I felt my fists clench at my sides, the familiar surge of anger bubbling up, but I forced myself to stay calm. "A dumb joke," I repeated, my voice colder than I'd intended. "You humiliated me in front of our entire family. You turned me into a punchline. You've been doing it for years, Matt. This wasn't just a one-time thing." He flinched, his face flushing as he looked away, his jaw working as if he was trying to chew over his words before spitting them out. "Come on, man. You know I didn't mean it like that. We've always busted each other's chops. It's just what brothers do." I felt a bitter laugh escape my lips. "Right. Brothers. Except you don't treat me like a brother. You treat me like a walking ATM, a backup plan. Someone to bail you out whenever you screw up." His eyes snapped back to mine, a flicker of indignation sparking in them. "That's not fair. I've always been there for you too." I shook my head. The anger I'd been holding back for years finally starting to spill over. "Really? When have you ever been there for me? When have you ever shown up for me without expecting something in return?" He opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "When I bought my first car, you laughed at me for spending too much money. When I got my promotion, you joked that I'd finally be able to afford a social life. When I paid Lily's college deposit, you called me an ATM in front of the entire family. And now you have the nerve to stand here and act like you're the one being wronged." I could see the flush creeping up his neck, his fists clenching at his sides as his breathing grew heavier. "All right, fine," he snapped, his voice rising. "Maybe I've been a jerk. Maybe I've taken you for granted. But that doesn't give you the right to screw over my family. You know how tight things are for us right now. You know how much we're struggling. And you just cut us off without warning like we're nothing to you." I felt my jaw tighten, the heat in my chest intensifying. "Struggling. You live in a 4-bedroom house with a pool. You have 2 cars, a kid in private school, and a wife who doesn't have to work. Don't stand here and pretend you're barely scraping by." He took a step forward, his face inches from mine, his breath coming in short, angry bursts. "You think just because you have a nice apartment and no kids that you're better than me, that your life is somehow more valuable?" I forced myself to hold his gaze, refusing to back down. "No, Matt, I don't think my life is better than yours. But I'm tired of being made to feel like it's worth less just because I don't have a family. I'm tired of being the one you dump your problems on, the one you use and then mock when it's convenient for you." He took a step back, his face paling slightly as my words sank in. For a moment, the room fell into a heavy silence, the only sound the faint hum of my refrigerator in the kitchen. "I didn't realize you felt that way," he muttered, his eyes dropping to the floor. I thought we were close. I don't know. I felt the anger drain from me, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. I leaned back against the door, letting out a long, slow breath. "I'm not saying you're a bad person, Matt," I said, my voice quieter now. "But you've been a lousy brother, and I'm done pretending like it doesn't hurt." He stared at me for a long moment, his jaw working as if he wanted to say something, but the words just wouldn't come. Finally, he took a deep breath, turning toward the door. I'll leave you alone," he muttered, his hand fumbling for the doorknob. He paused, his shoulders slumping as he looked back at me one last time. "But Tony, don't do this to Lily. She looks up to you, she needs you." I felt a pang of guilt at the mention of my niece, the only member of that family who had ever truly appreciated me without strings attached. But I forced myself to stay firm, to hold my ground. "Then maybe you should start treating me like the uncle she actually deserves," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. He stared at me for a moment longer, his eyes searching mine for some sign of weakness, some crack in my resolve. But when he found none, he turned and walked out the door, clicking shut behind him. I stood there for a long moment, my heart still pounding, my hands trembling slightly as I processed what had just happened. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally said my piece. And as I sank onto the couch, the silence of my apartment wrapping around me like a comforting blanket, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally taken the first real step toward reclaiming my own life. The days after Matt's late-night visit were quieter than I expected. No angry texts, no guilt-ridden voicemails, just radio silence. It was almost unsettling, like the calm before a storm, and I found myself glancing at my phone more often than I'd like to admit. Then a few days later, I got a message from Sarah. "Tony, this has gone too far. Matt's barely sleeping and Lily keeps asking why you're mad at her. I know things got heated, but we're family. Please come to dinner this Sunday. Let's put this behind us." I leaned back in my chair, my thumb hovering over the delete button. I could picture the scene perfectly. Sarah pouring a second glass of wine while Matt fumed quietly at the head of the table, my mom casting worried glances at me, everyone waiting for me to apologize for daring to stand up for myself. No, I was done with that script. I deleted the message and set my phone down, letting out a slow, controlled breath. I'd come too far to turn back now, but it seemed my family wasn't quite ready to let go. That Friday, I stopped by my mom's house to pick up a few things I'd left in her garage. An old toolbox, some camping gear, a set of golf clubs I'd barely used. I figured it was time to start reclaiming the parts of my life I'd let them borrow, the little pieces of myself I'd loaned out over the years. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed my mom's car parked out front, but the house itself was quiet. I let myself in, the familiar scent of her lavender air freshener hitting me as I stepped into the foyer. "Mom," I called out, my voice echoing off the polished hardwood floors. No answer. I made my way to the garage, flipping on the light and squinting at the stacks of cardboard boxes, old holiday decorations, and forgotten yard tools. I spotted my toolbox in the corner, half buried under a pile of faded Christmas wreaths, and started digging it out. I was just about to haul it out to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, my heart giving a startled jump as my mom appeared in the doorway. Her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her expression pinched. "Tony," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "We need to talk." I straightened, setting the toolbox down and brushing the dust off my hands. "About what?" She took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing slightly. "About this grudge you're holding against your brother. It's tearing this family apart." I felt my jaw tighten, the familiar anger flaring up in my chest. "This isn't a grudge, Mom. This is me finally standing up for myself. I'm tired of being the family doormat." She stepped forward, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "Doormat Tony, you've always been part of this family. You're the one who chose to isolate yourself. You're the one who's pushing us away." I let out a bitter laugh, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "Is that what Matt's been telling you? That I'm the one pushing everyone away? Did he mention how he humiliated me in front of everyone at the party, how he's been treating me like an ATM for years?" She flinched, her face tightening, but she didn't back down. "Matt has his faults, but he's family. You don't just cut off family because of a few harsh words." I felt the familiar ache in my chest, the old, deep-rooted guilt that had kept me coming back for years, that had kept me paying their bills, covering their emergencies, playing the good son, the reliable brother. "No, Mom," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "You don't cut off family for a few harsh words. But you do when those words turn into years of disrespect, when they take you for granted, when they use you without a second thought. She opened her mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, cutting her off. I'm done, Mom. I'm done being the one they rely on while they mock me behind my back. I'm done being the easy target. She stared at me, her eyes wide, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For a moment, I thought she might actually apologize, that she might see how deeply this had all cut me. But then her face hardened, her eyes narrowing as she straightened her shoulders. Fine, she snapped, her voice cold. If that's how you want it, then don't come crying to me when you're old and alone, when you've pushed everyone away and you have no one left. I felt the final thread of my patience snap, the years of pent-up resentment and hurt bubbling to the surface. I stepped forward, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who only keep me around for what I can do for them. At least then I'll have my self-respect. She took a step back, her face paling, her eyes wide with shock. I turned, grabbing my toolbox and storming past her, my footsteps echoing through the silent house as I made my way to the front door. I didn't look back as I slammed the door behind me, the sound reverberating through the quiet suburban street. I tossed the toolbox into my trunk, slammed the lid, and climbed into the driver's seat, my hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. As I drove away, the anger slowly ebbed, replaced by a strange, unfamiliar sense of peace. I'd finally said my piece, finally stood my ground, finally drawn a line in the sand. And as I pulled into my apartment parking lot, the setting sun casting long golden shadows across the pavement, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Maybe I'd end up alone. Maybe I'd regret this someday. But for now, I felt lighter than I had in years. And that, I decided, was enough. Story 2. My family sided with them after my fiancé cheated on me with my brother. They warned me not to come, yet they invited them to Christmas. My mother scoffed. Avoid being petty. They have fallen in love. My sibling grinned. She went with the better man. Stop being a victim, my father said. In any case, you were never good enough for her. You've all shown me exactly who you are, I added with a smile. I appreciate how simple it was to shut you all off. After 4 months, I made a choice that devastated the family. They are now phoning daily. Please. All we have left is you. Since I'm not a writer, I'm not really sure how to begin. And even as I type this, I want to hurl my phone against the wall. All I feel is anger, shock, and a slight numbness. Additionally, this whole situation is so incredibly disorganized that I'm not even sure if people would believe it, but whatever. All I have to do is get it out. Get some thoughts back, perhaps. Hold on tight, because this is going to be a lengthy one. In any case, it began with strange sensations. You know those weeks when you can't quite put your finger on it, but you keep thinking something's wrong? Last November, I was that person. Rosalie, my fiancé, became instantly fixated on her phone. Not scrolling, but always looking for messages. And then concealing her screen from me as I passed. She just replied that it was her group chat when I questioned her about it. To be honest, I didn't press the issue because she usually enjoyed having little conversations, acting as though she was always gregarious and all that. I'm not. Atlas, my brother, was returning to town for the holidays. Everyone in my family treats him like a golden retriever, even if he has been gone for a time. He is really amazing at everything. The other person is me. I'm not being theatrical there. Our folks have always been like that. Even as children. I don't despise him. However, Uncle has consistently been given the benefit of the doubt. I'm accustomed to being the fallback option. After Atlas returns, Rosalie helps him settle in and gives him a tour of the city. At first, I didn't find it strange because she gets along with him and my family is constantly involved in each other's affairs. It was every other day after that. She claimed to be at home when I phoned her once, but I could hear Atlas laughing with her in the background. I dismissed the possibility that she just didn't want me to visit and spend time with them. Why would I assume anything differently after all I had faith in her until foolish small things began to pile up? She would say she was too tired, then post pictures from a supper out, or she would leave with some flimsy explanation like having to help my mom with something when I asked her to come over to my. Not with me. Indeed, I noticed Atlas's jacket in the backdrop of one picture. That red one is dumb, he wears all the time. Even though I felt a bit insane, Uncle, I didn't believe they were together. I just assumed that they could be acting strangely by spending time together without me. The real fun then begins. Like most people, my mom starts planning Christmas while my family has a large group chat. Even though I don't particularly enjoy the holidays, I always go. Don't miss it. Every year we have hosted at my parents' house. But this time my mother sends me a message, not even a phone call. I just got a message that I should probably skip Christmas. Due to everything that has transpired, it will be too awkward this year. What the devil is she talking about, I ask myself. My dad and Atlas both comment on being mature and not creating a scene as I go back over the chat. Rosalie just replies, "I'm sorry, this is for the best," when I text her, such as, "Since I'm done messaging, I really call my mom and she answers and leaves right away. Avoid being petty. They have fallen in love. You must go on." And I simply stop talking. I'm not even able to comprehend that. "Am I hearing this correctly?" I ask her. "Yes," she responds. "Rosalie and Atlas are together. I should attempt to be glad for them, but it's serious. I'm giggling. Is this a joke like my brother gets on the phone and says she selected the better man and I should take the L?" I swear at that very moment I was on the verge of driving to my parents' house. After I end the call, I check the group chat and see that everyone has decided without consulting me that I am not invited. My dad sends me a direct message telling me to quit being a victim and that I was never good enough for her. There are no words to express how that felt. Nothing at all, not even rage. I then go to my flat and get my belongings. I was fortunate that the majority of my belongings were still in their boxes because I had intended to move in with Rosalie following the holiday. I load up and head to a friend's house. Not a very close friend even. Just someone who doesn't ask questions and has a spare room. I spend about 10 minutes sitting in my car outside of their house just browsing through my phone and reviewing the texts. I don't respond to anybody. I don't make phone calls. I just sent one message to the chat room for the family group. "I appreciate you all demonstrating your true selves to me. Makes cutting you off simple." Then I go. I end the conversation. Atlas is blocked by me. My parents are blocked by me. Rosalie is blocked by me. I don't yell weep or do anything else. I simply feel numb. Then furious, then furious. I find it unbelievable that I allowed them to abuse me in this manner for such a long time. This isn't everything. That has always been the case. Atlas consistently receives a better bargain, and me simply filling in the blanks when he's not there. I've stopped doing it. I just notify a few buddies via SMS that I'm going out, and they all exclaim, "Wow, are you certain?" Perhaps it is only a miscommunication. Nobody wants to think that this level of suckiness is possible. But to be honest, this is how my family has always been. Not this, please. Up until today, it has been open about it. I never return to my parents' residence. I disregard their persistent texts. According to a cousin, Atlas and Rosalie attended Christmas together as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. In reality, hardly one speaks to them. On Facebook, my mom shares a picture of the two of them with the message, "I'm so happy for these two." I believe I was only a stand-in for someone to point the finger at when anything went wrong. Atlas achieves his goals. Rosalie desires a person who is constantly the focus of attention. My parents want everything for their star son. I simply got in the way. Now I understand. I can't stop thinking about how quickly they cut me off like if it didn't matter. Not even a struggle. Simply shrug and go on. But I'm not going to take it lying down. That's not my style. I want them to know how angry I am. I want them to experience even a little portion of my emotions. I have some ideas, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do just yet. I understand how painful it is for them. It's not just feelings, either. Even if I won't violate the law, I won't just go as if I never was. I'm at that point at the moment. I'm finished. I'm leaving. I'm making my decision, and my family has already made theirs. I suppose that if anyone has read this far. Regards. I'm not sure if I want advice at all. I simply had to get it out. But this isn't the end, I assure you. I will not tolerate this. Not now. The second part will be released soon, if anyone is interested. 1. Update. To be honest, the first few days following the entire situation made me feel as like I was trapped in a different reality where nothing made sense. I was hoping that someone would text me to tell me that it was all a joke, a strange family trick or something. However, nothing. Nothing but quiet. Not silent, that is. It's more akin to the quiet in which people are discussing you, but not with you. I didn't receive any direct alerts, but my phone buzzed a couple times with sporadic group chat notifications. My mom was grinning like she had won the jackpot in the backdrop of the photo of Atlas and Rosalie at the Christmas table, and I could see my cousin Helen's posts about spending time with family. After then, I blocked them, but it was too late. I had already internalized the entire thing. It was as awful as it sounds to live in boxes in a friend's spare room. I was unable to even unpack. I didn't feel like telling people why I suddenly had my entire apartment in the trunk, so I left half of my belongings in the car. My pal didn't inquire, just gave me a key and showed me where the towels were, and I was grateful. I spent a lot of time scrolling through my phone and watching odd TikToks to kill time, but I kept seeing their faces and other things that made me think of them. I merely went through the motions the first week since I had temporarily removed the program, attempted to eat. Didn't speak to anyone in particular. Sarah, one of my former pals, texted me to ask how I was doing. She just gave me the thumbs up when I replied that I was okay since I didn't want to get involved. That was it. To be honest, people get uneasy when things like these occur. Nobody is sure what to say. In any case, I began reflecting on how easily my family abandoned me, as if there were no doubt at all. Right now, it's not even about Rosalie. It's because they were only seeking an excuse to support Atlas. I suppose I knew in my heart that my parents always thought he had ability. They would always boast about him, even as children. It was always, "That's nice, but did you hear what Atlas did?" when I brought good news home. The focus was always on me being stable and him being ahead. So, as the shock subsided, I became irate, like very angry. I came to the realization that I had allowed them to treat me as a backup plan for years. Even when I mended my parents' malfunctioning Wi-Fi, assisted with bills, and performed other mundane tasks for the family, it was just anticipated. None of it was ever required of Atlas. At one point, my mother really informed me that it was simply because I was more trustworthy, as though that were a compliment. The problem is that I wasn't the only trustworthy person. All of the tedious tasks they couldn't be bothered with were handled by me. This rental property is owned by my parents. It's a little spot a few blocks from their house, nothing special. Atlas was unable to qualify on his own, so they asked if I would be prepared to co-sign some documents a while back. I foolishly tried to be the good son, so I said yes. I'm still listed on the papers for that place, so to speak. Since then, Atlas has lived there for free with my parents paying the utilities. It was okay that I never saw a dime, but now it simply annoys me. Rosalie owes me money too. Not much yet, enough to make it something. Last year, we divided a lot of things, such as relocation costs and some furnishings that we would share when we moved in together. She kept forgetting that she had promised to Venmo me her half. I assumed we were getting married, so I ignored it. I'll send it the next week every time I see that old text. My only want is to toss my phone out the window. This is where my thoughts began to change from depressed to positive. I will not let this go. Like, I can definitely stop making their life easier, even though I know I can't make them adore me or anything. I opened my email and began going through every Venmo receipt invoice and silly little paperwork my mother had given me regarding the rental. I began compiling a list. I'm not referring to retaliation, such as applying glue to their hair or anything. I'm referring to striking them where the pain is. cash, comfort, reputation. As I probed further, I became more aware of how much I had overlooked. My parents just thought that I wouldn't cause trouble. That was their major error. I then began to consider what I might do and what would truly get their attention. I didn't want to simply leave them and let them act as like I didn't exist. I wanted them to face the consequences of their actions. Really take care of it. I spoke with a buddy who has some knowledge of rental legislation. Simply generic information. Nothing suspicious, and I discovered that I have the legal authority to compel the sale of the property if I so want, as long as I'm still included on the documents. They would have to let it go to the open market or buy me out. That is beyond Atlas's means. And because they are constantly helping him, my parents feel overburdened. They'd have to scurry without me, but this isn't some mansion. Just so you know, I'm leaving the property. I began writing in an email to my folks. You have 30 days to solve it. Although I haven't watched it yet, I will. I want the timing to be perfect. I'm not letting her off either, Rosalie. I read through all of my texts and saw that she had promised to reimburse me. I created a PDF and included screen grabs. A message was sent to her. What you owe me is this. By the end of the month, I would like it. She didn't respond after reading it. She just took the lesson to heart when I followed up with her. Traditional. Not all of the mutual friends reached out at once. Hey man, I'm sorry about what happened, but you should just move on, was more like it. They appear content, such as I questioned one of them. Do you genuinely believe that what they did is acceptable? It was said by the man. Well, at least you said that you were checked out, more than anything else that infuriated me. They always do that after all. Make it seem as though I was insufficient. I will not tolerate that story. I then began forwarding the screenshots to a few of them, just to let them know what truly transpired, not to be petty. After that, a few of them responded, but the majority did not. Damn, exclaimed one. I had no idea it was like that. That's harsh, dude, remarked another. Not much else. People are unwilling to become involved. I received an unexpected SMS from my cousin Helen saying, you know, you could just let it go and find someone else. My mom has always used her as her little messenger. I informed her that I no longer wanted to be a member of the family group. Okay, but don't make things awkward for everyone, she said. She responded to my question about how unpleasant it is for them when they cut me off with a lengthy tirade about how complicated family is. I let her read. I don't care, so it's not like I'm making friends here. I began unfollowing everyone who expressed interest in Rosalie's and Atlas's posts. Anyone that emailed me guilt trips was banned. Even though I have a smaller group now, I know who is genuine. The strangest thing was how quickly Rosalie and Atlas moved in together as if nothing had occurred. A neighbor informed me that they were already hosting guests, such as just behaving like a pair. Apparently, during the first week, my mom brought meals for them. Atlas had finally settled down, and my dad was boasting about it. I believe I was just meant to vanish. Here's the problem, though. I'm not going anywhere. I am fully aware of their priorities. Safety, comfort, maintaining appearances. They will sense it if I begin tugging on those strands. Furthermore, I'm only enforcing what is already mine. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm no longer going to make their life simple, but I'm also not going to shatter their windows or anything. I'm sending the email regarding the property as the following step. I'm checking in with Rosalie on the funds. I'm being extremely transparent with our common friends about what truly transpired. Thus, they are unable to simply alter history. I'm not making a big deal out of it. Just be clear. I'm tired of keeping silent, but I'm not sure how this will all work out. If they choose to pretend that I never existed, I'll prove to them how mistaken they are. I've only just begun. I'm listening if anyone has suggestions on how to ensure that they truly pay attention. But believe me, I'm not going to stop here. I want them to experience it daily. Once I've made my move, the next step will come. Keep an eye out. The second update. When I sent the email regarding the property, I didn't think it would feel like anything, but I was mistaken because less than 5 minutes later, I received a call from my dad. I turned it down. Repeatedly saw the screen light up. Then the texts began to come in. My mom first, Atlas next, and finally my dad once more. It was everything. What are you doing? Why now? Can we discuss this? I kept it set to read. It took me a few hours to respond at all. I just took a stroll while listening to an old playlist that I hadn't used in a long time. That day, the city felt particularly chilly, yet it was beneficial. After several missed calls, I eventually picked up my dad's phone, mostly because I was aware that he would arrive at my door if I didn't. "This is ridiculous," he began. "You're acting immaturely and so forth." "I want out," I said. "I'm no longer your co-signer. If you don't buy me out within 30 days, it will be listed," Atlas remarked. He tried to argue, not able to afford it. Said that I was placing the family in a difficult situation. "You made your decision," I said. "Take care of it now." The next text I got was from my mom, who wasn't even attempting to be kind. "You always do this," she said. "Make things challenging for everyone." "Things wasn't me who made things hard," I said. "I just won't be cleaning up your mess any longer." She referred to me as self-centered. Like any other day, I set my phone aside and proceeded to prepare a sandwich. That evening, Atlas attempted to contact me. I needed to hear his spin, so I took it up. He began by saying, "Man, are you really going to do this? It's not very profound. We are related. You can't have it both ways," I told him. "You can't take advantage of me and keep getting away with it." When I ruined everything for everyone, he became enraged. That I was only resentful. He could always find a legitimate job and pay rent like everyone else, I assured him. He went on to say, "You're just jealous that she chose me." I hung up after laughing. He returned the call. The next day, I let it ring. I contacted Rosalie again. I forwarded the images and the PDF with all of her debt to her. I threatened to file full if this wasn't paid by the end of the month. "You're really going to be this petty," was her final response after leaving me on read. I just responded by providing the payment breakdown once more. Nothing after that. My parents began sending me guilt trip-related group texts. "Your family is known to you. You're superior than this. You're punishing us, but why I didn't respond. Everyone is talking about how you're tearing the family apart," my cousin Helen stated over the phone. "Perhaps they shouldn't have taken sides," I remarked. "It wasn't that easy," she said. "It truly is," I said. She ended the call. Things heated up in the group chat I was still in with a few people we had in common. Someone took a screenshot of a post Atlas and added a vague reference to loyalty and snakes to his tail. The receipts were simply uploaded by me. Just the facts, no comments. "If you're still talking to Atlas and Rosalie, that's your call," I told a few of pals in a direct message. "But don't bother me with their drama." Some of them departed from the conversation. "I got it now," one individual stated in a message. "Apologies. It doesn't really fix anything, but whatever." My parents began calling me virtually every night. Occasionally my mother, occasionally my father, and occasionally both. My father attempted to use logic, yelled at me once, and even threatened to sue me if I compelled the sale of the land. "Go ahead," I told him. "I have every right to do so. You need to have considered the repercussions," he shouted. I ended the call. My mother tried to play the emotional card, sobbing on the phone and accusing me of destroying the family. "When you choose Atlas over me," I informed her, "you did that." The phone was slammed down by her. I hadn't informed anyone where I was sleeping, so it was crazy when Atlas turned up at my friend's house one evening. He began shouting for me to come out after hammering on the door. Atlas simply brushed past him when my buddy urged him to go when she opened the door. "You're not going to ruin my life over this," he shouted, getting in my face when we first met in the corridor. "Looks like you did that to yourself," I said. He gave me a shove. I pushed him away. After yanking us apart, my friend begged him to go. As Atlas left, he kicked the door. After that, my mother texted me to say, Atlas explained what had transpired. "You have lost control." I stated I would contact the police if he appeared again. "Don't endanger family," she urged. "Then tell him to keep away," I said. From then on, it was something different every day. My father called to let me know. "You're clueless about what you're doing. This surpasses you in size." "Not my problem," I responded. "Mom sent me an SMS. You were the good one once," I said. "Though I'm not your doormat, I still am." I had to send Rosalie a formal demand letter before she would ultimately pay me. She banned me after sending it in 2 installments. A week later, I watched her Instagram story and laughed. It has to do with discovering your true pal's authentic original. Weeks passed, and the property issue persisted. My parents made an effort to delay, tried to arrange a family discussion meeting with me. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. They used old pictures, old memories, and other things to try to make me feel guilty. I choose to disregard them. After a while, their lawyer called. I'm not joking, attempting to persuade me to change my mind. "This isn't personal," I said. "It's business. It's either on the market or you have 30 days. After that, my dad called and yelled at me, claimed I was unappreciative, expressed his wish that he had never included me on the document. I informed him. "You now understand what it's like to be excluded." He ended the call. People began to take sides. Friends and family who used to regularly invite me to events stopped doing so. I received a mail from my aunt stating, "I hope you're content with who you are." She was blocked by me. A couple of relatives stated, "If you want to talk, we're here." "I'm good," I said. A month later, my parents gave in. The home was put up for sale after they were unable to buy me out. Atlas pleaded for additional time over the phone, said that if I just withdrew the listing, he would pay me the rent. "You've been living for free long enough," I told him. "It's time to solve it." "I will never forgive you for this," he attempted to say. "I don't care what you think anymore," I replied. My mother texted the day the realtor posted the sign. Hopefully this was worthwhile. I didn't respond. That evening, I ate takeaway and watched pointless YouTube videos with a friend who remained silent. All we did was laugh and watch horrible movies. Atlas and Rosalie got into a quarrel. Or so a mutual told me. It seems that living together was not what they had hoped for. My parents were under stress as they tried to conceal the transaction from friends and relatives. On Facebook, I came upon a few embarrassing postings from my mother. Nothing straightforward. A great deal of nebulous grief. The finest aspect, not that I was cunning at all. I just quit making things simple for them. I stopped making excuses, fixing problems, paying payments, and keeping secrets. I simply let the repercussions to strike. The property was sold at the end of the 3rd month. Atlas had to go. My parents' additional source of money was lost. I received my fair share. Not much, but enough. Rosalie was also absent. She returned to her previous residence as far as I knew. My family group chat has stopped working. My mother wrote me a lengthy email on family and forgiveness. I didn't read it. It seemed right, but I won't say it felt wonderful. I was not even. I simply quit playing their game. Without someone to clean up the mess, they must now decide what to do. You don't get to betray someone and then pretend nothing occurred, even though I know some people would think this is cruel. Nor am I finished yet. Before I officially block them, I still want to clarify a few things. You already know that I'm not going to back down if you've read this far. There will be another update shortly. The last update. This is the bit that caught me off guard. Although I was aware that they would be upset, I didn't truly imagine what it would look like when the entire family system collapses. To be honest, things began strangely silent. As soon as the property closed, everyone fell silent. As if they believed that I may simply grow bored and go if they ignored me for a long enough period of time. I avoided them, avoided looking at their profiles, and avoided interacting with anyone who would play messenger. That should be it, I thought. I would simply go on. However, a month or two after the place sold, everyone seemed to know that I would not be returning. My father was the first to begin. Only these little texts. "Call me, or you please. Have a moment." I didn't read him. In a lengthy follow-up, my mother said that family came first and that I was being obstinate and harboring resentment. I replied to her with a single word. No. Then things really got going. My cousin Helen is calling me. She's speaking quickly for once. She claims that because my parents are constantly arguing, she is concerned about Grandma. Things are nasty once Atlas moves back in. Not my circus, I said. Are you not even a little sorry? She said. Not even a little, I answered. She immediately hung up. Atlas attempted to call. I paid him no attention. Like you, he emailed me this wall of words. Are you happy now everything is damaged by you? I hope it was worthwhile. And anything. I didn't respond. He gave another call. I took it up. He began to shout. I hung up. He returned the phone, left a voicemail, then hung up after a brief pause of around 30 seconds of heavy breathing. Very mature. This group SMS was then issued by my mother. Just my dad, her, and myself. The type of communication in which she has been sobbing, you know. Please, she said. All we have left is you. Without you, it's not the same. She also desired to meet with her relatives. I didn't respond. My father made another attempt. You're being theatrical when you say that your brother committed errors. This is something we can resolve. I returned it. Nothing needs to be fixed. Your decisions were your own. Tell me Aunt Sarah phoned. This must end. Your folks are worn out. People are beginning to wonder why Atlas is in such disarray. She became enraged and exclaimed, You're punishing everyone for something that wasn't even about you. But I suggested that perhaps they should have considered that first. It's always about me, I said. Before it cost you money, you just didn't give a damn. The phone was slammed down by her. Atlas and Rosalie split up according to a mutual. She blocked him on almost everything after moving out. She apparently informed some individuals that my mom was too much and that Atlas was not who she believed him to be. I can't claim to be surprised. Being the favorite has always allowed Atlas to get by, but when he doesn't get his way, he can be difficult to live with. I've heard that he was told no when he attempted to crash on a friend's couch. Lately, my folks have been phoning daily. Really, each day, occasionally more than once, only requesting a conversation. One night, my dad even came over to my friend's house, just said my name while standing outside. The door went unanswered by me. From his room, my friend sent me an SMS. Your dad is outside, bro. Should I give someone a call? I choose to disregard it. Dad finally went out. They began writing lengthy emails, pages and pages, about how forgiveness is a part of family, how they just had my best interests in mind, and how they hoped I would be able to move on and return home. Every time I simply click archive. They seem to be acting for one another at this point. Not for me. I am aware of the trend. Everything will resume as usual if they can get me back inside the home. Atlas above. I'm tidying up the mess. Not taking place. About 2 weeks ago, the funds from the property arrived in my account. I utilized it to establish a new place and settle a few large expenses. I kept the address from them. I now keep my circle small. Only a few buddies, nobody in the family. My life is considerably quieter, which is crazy. I continue to receive sporadic communications. My father once attempted to guilt-trip me by telling me that I was responsible if something happened to your mother. I just said don't. He didn't respond. We simply want to chat, my mom added, trying to be kind once again. Before I could continue discussing the little details, I remarked, You have spoken enough. How Atlas and I met at the supermarket. He turned his head away. How I simply drove away from my mom when she attempted to corner me at the petrol station. How this lengthy, meandering text about men standing together was sent to me by my dad. It's all noise now, though, to be honest. I suppose I was always the spare in my family. When I became useless, that's when they missed me. Because Atlas had always been taught he can. He did what he did. He was the one my parents wanted to win, so they went along with it. They would never stop it, so I had to do it myself. I won't claim to feel fantastic or to have learned a profound life lesson. I simply fulfilled my obligation. I'm upset. Yes, but I don't apologize. If you're reading this, you may be wondering if you should let somebody treat you badly just because they're related. I hope this clarifies it somewhat. To be honest, I have no idea what will happen next, and I don't care. They can email, text, phone, or do anything else. I'm not going to answer. They were looking for a victor. They can now cope with the reality of it. That's all. No corny conclusion. Just finished. Story 3. I've never done anything like this before, but every year around Christmas, when all of my friends post pictures of their families and other things, I think, LOL, that's not me. I've never been like that. I suppose I was just too much or too little because my family has always done things their way. I'll start with the Christmas that essentially made it obvious that I'm not family to them, but I'm not sure which. I'm tired of keeping it to myself, even though I've never truly told anyone the full truth. For background, I don't have a large family. Jed, my younger sister Cassandra, my older brother Norman, my younger brother Timothy, and I make up the 4 of us. Both parents are still living. Patricia is Mom's name. She is the type of person who must always be the last to speak. Wants to be in the middle all the time. She will take action if someone else is receiving attention. Just to give it back to her, I guess. Although she detested her father, she used to comment that I was too much like him, which was nice. I was the child that didn't simply nod along and didn't wait in line. Norman never did anything wrong and was always the golden boy. Cassandra was pampered since she was the only girl. Since Timothy was the youngest, he also received a baby. I was only present. You get accustomed to being background noise, I suppose. Thus, Christmas was 2 weeks away. I recall that at around 1 a.m, my mother was using her laptop, and I could hear her discussing a cruise offer she had found through the wall. I didn't give it much thought. As usual, I assumed she was only boasting to her pals. "Oh, by the way, we're doing Christmas differently this year," she says at breakfast the next day. "We'll be on a cruise." When she said that, her gaze was fixed on Norman as if she expected him to respond. He remained silent. Nobody gave me a look. "All right, cool," I responded. "When do we depart?" As if I had just farted at the table, she pulled this look. Says, "Jet, you're not coming. There are just 4 beds in the cottage. For a week, you'll be all right on your own. You're old enough." Norman, who is 15, received a bed when he was 17. "Isn't there a couch or something?" I asked. She simply chuckles and asks, "What do you want us to do?" "I don't mind sleeping on the floor. Purchase an entire additional room for you." Then, as if I were a bother, she is swiping through her phone. Dad continues to eat without actually looking at anyone. Timothy speaks up. "Jet can just stay with Grandma," he says. However, Grandma is spending the winter in Florida. Mom responds, "No, he is capable of taking care of himself." She says it like this as if I should feel proud of it or something. All Cassandra is doing is looking at her phone. I sit there wondering whether this is genuine as Norman remains silent. Is anyone going to speak up? It's really strange. Like the quiet. That's the thing I remember the most. They all seemed to agree. Jet is not an issue. He simply isn't significant. As a result, the next week is quite uncomfortable. Mom is preparing lists, packing, and informing the others of what they should bring. I keep expecting for Dad to step up or for her to say, "Actually, you can come," but none of those things happens. I attempt to speak with my dad a few days before they depart and ask if I would be able to travel. Perhaps they should give a call to check on their place. "You know your mom made the plans," he says. "I'm not going to get involved." I walk to my room and while it seems silly, I punch my pillow. It is therefore early on the day they go, like it's still dark outside. Not even hungry, I'm in the kitchen preparing toast. Just their mother enters, sets down her bag, and says, "Here, give me this $20 bill that looks like it's been washed and don't set the house on fire." Heh. Norman is wearing headphones behind her. Cassandra is using the camera on her phone to do cosmetics. Timothy is jumping all over the place like a dog. Nobody even gives me a glance. "You know where the food is?" she simply adds. "If you need anything, give us a call, but try not to." I inquire as to whether they will return on Christmas morning. "It will be more enjoyable without your complaints," she replies with a giggle. I tighten my jaw. I remain silent. Without saying apologize, she snatches her luggage and bumps it into my foot. Norman gives me a shrug. For example, what are you asking me to do? Actually, Cassandra apologizes to Jet, but she does it in a way that betrays her lack of sincerity. Mom is shouting, so Timothy gives me a short embrace. Dad is outside honking, and they are running late. Then they disappear. As I watch them cram themselves into the car, I stand in the doorway. Mom is giggling too much. Through the window, I hear it. After they go, the home feels enormous. I simply go about browse TikTok play games on my phone and eat whatever I want. I was hoping they would phone to check in, but they didn't. Nothing. Not on that particular day. Neither on Christmas Day nor on Christmas Eve. I honestly have no idea what to prepare for supper, so I end up making toast. The kennel's canines. Thus even he is absent. The refrigerator hums as I sit at the table. I occasionally hear a car outside and speculate that they could be returning early, but it's never them. I open the one gift my mother left me, socks, and go through the motions on Christmas morning. It's simply a simple white one, not even the sort I prefer. A card that reads, "Perhaps you'll be less difficult next year." I dispose of it in the garbage. I attempt to text Norman. "Merry Christmas, please. I hope everyone is enjoying themselves." I'm left on read by him. I come upon a picture of them on the ship deck while browsing Instagram. Everyone is grinning. About 200 people like it. A commenter asks, "Are you not missing a child?" Mom responds that Jet is old enough to take care of himself. I don't even try to answer. A few days later, they return boisterous and tanned. Mom is boasting about the cuisine. Cassandra is insane. Norman has an arm around a girl from the cruise and her phone got wet. Timothy is furious. He misplaced his sunglasses. I'm standing with my arms folded in the hallway. When Mom sees me, I say, "Oh, you survived. Yes, I appreciate you checking in." "Don't start yet," she says, rolling her eyes. Nobody desires drama. When Dad tries to pat my shoulder, I resist. He lets out a sigh. Norman remains silent. Is it true that I fed Cassandra fish I simply turned to leave? I overhear Mom and Dad fighting in the kitchen that evening. "Why must he always make things difficult?" she asks. "He could have simply savored the silence. Perhaps we ought to have brought him." Dad replies. Mom says, "He's still a kid. You are aware that he has always been an issue." I head to my room and firmly close the door. For the remainder of Christmas break, I don't speak to any of them. I ignore Norman when he attempts to encourage me to play games. I get a message from Cassandra requesting that I return her charger. Mom thinks I should stay at home when Timothy asks if I want to go to a movie. I begin planning my departure as soon as possible. Being the extra is over for me. I'm not related. Not at all. They were rather explicit about it. I suppose that concludes part 1. I know that seems wild, but that's precisely how it happened. I never received an apology. To be honest, I never requested one. I simply began to count down the days till I could really chop them off. What truly transpired after that, and the reason I never really looked back, will be covered in the next section. I suppose I'll just jump in again because, to be honest, it's crazy to look back and see how much being unwanted at home plays with your psyche. It just gets crazier for update 1. People have been saying things like, "Family's family, you'll work it out," for years. However, there are instances when you simply become weary of being the one they let go when it's convenient for them. Not sure. After that Christmas, I was simply beyond being the odd one out, even though I kind of always knew it. It was odd, like lifeless eyes at the table immediately following the cruise. No one discussed it. Norman, like nothing had occurred, as he continued to attempt to persuade me to play games with him. However, he would simply respond, "It's not my fault, ask Mom," if I mentioned the vacation. I thus ceased inquiring. I simply stopped showing up. I would go to my friend's place and eat after everyone had left early. I kept what had occurred to myself. Not at all. Who of us wants to be the child humiliating our own parents? I don't know. People behave strangely when you tell them that your family is awful. They either make excuses for your parents or don't believe you. I simply stopped sharing as a result. Maybe spring break was the first really border moment, in my opinion. Everyone but me was firing off names while Mom talked about a beach getaway. This time I asked if I might come. "Don't make this about you," she said. After mumbling something, Dad walked out of the room. "Cool," I said. "I won't ask again." In an effort to spend as much time as possible at the skate park, I began to spend more time there. Mom would ask me when I got home if I wanted to eat her meals or simply stay at her place for free. "You left me alone at Christmas," I retorted. "Perhaps I ought to have simply moved out." She gave me a smack. I recall only gazing at her. She stormed out after slamming the refrigerator. I stopped expecting anything after that. In order to bounce as quickly as possible, I started putting aside any money I received from birthdays or other sporadic sources. I began keeping my phone beneath the pillow as I slept in case something happened. I didn't trust them to keep me out, not because I believed they would need me. It may sound crazy, but you start making plans for the worst when your own mother thinks you're old enough to spend a trip alone. Norman never really defended me, and to be honest, I believe he enjoyed being the one for whom Mom genuinely did things. Cassie. She kind of drifted on her phone all the time, only seeming concerned when it didn't interfere with her plans. After his mother scolded him for siding with me, Timothy, who was still a child, stopped inviting me to hang out. In any case, thus, a few years pass. All I'm doing is counting down the days till I can go. At home, I hardly ever speak to anyone. Mom continues to act as though I'm the issue, constantly telling her friends that I'm challenging. Never content. Even when I was there, she would talk about me as if I didn't exist. She once told Aunt Harper over the phone, "Chet just can't let things go. He is very dramatic. I hope he'll just act normally." As usual, as if I were an issue to be resolved. No human. As usual, Dad remained silent. "It's difficult for your mother," he would occasionally try to say. "She's under stress, but I ignore it." When I finally walked out, I was done caring. It wasn't a particularly dramatic event. I simply packed up my belongings, bid Timothy farewell, and left Cassandra a note. Mom claimed that I was being ungrateful and that I would never comprehend the difficulties of parenthood. "You left me alone for Christmas," I said. "Do you want me to say anything else?" She referred to me as self-centered. I didn't even turn around. I simply left Norman on read when he texted me about a week later to ask if he could use my old headphones. I deliberately avoided going home for the holidays after that. I'd get random texts from Mom, sometimes asking for money, sometimes asking if I'd come move boxes or help fix something. I always said I was busy one time. Norman tried to guilt me into coming home for Thanksgiving, saying Mom was really struggling. I said she's got 3 other kids. He left it alone. Cassandra started hitting me up for help with her phone or laptop, but only when she needed something. Timothy faded out. Honestly, and I don't blame him. It's hard to keep up when everyone's just in their own world. The thing is, it wasn't like one big fight. It was just a million little things piling up. Like Mom never remembered my birthday. Dad would forget to include me in group messages. Norman would only call when he wanted something, and if I didn't help, he'd get all passive-aggressive. Once he called me lazy for not coming to help him move. I hung up after laughing. After a while, I stopped feeling guilty. I realized the only time they wanted me around was when I was useful. If I wasn't, I didn't exist. Stuff with my family simply kept getting stranger. To be honest, one year, Mom emailed me a snapshot of their Christmas meal with a note like, "I wish you were here." But then I realized in the backdrop that my plate wasn't even placed. Like, why even bother? Norman got engaged, didn't even invite me to the family meal about it. Cassandra had a breakdown about my not lending her cash for a festival. She referred to me as self-centered. I told her to go lost. She blocked me for a month, then unblocked me when she needed a lift to the airport. The money problem started becoming worse for them. A few years ago, Mom lost her side hustle. Dad's retirement tanked, and now everyone was behaving like I was required to step up and help out. Norman called, wondering if I could co-sign for anything. I chuckled and replied, "You left me out of everything. Why would I do that?" He became enraged and accused me of harboring resentment. Mom began sending me sporadic guilt trip texts as if we were still your relatives. "You must assist." I simply stopped answering. When they became too much, I blocked their numbers. They would always push back when I established a barrier. Mom once unexpectedly showed up at my house, banged on the door, and yelled at me to allow her in. I threatened to call someone if she didn't leave. She fled after slapping the door. Norman told me I would regret it when she left, and then he texted me. I assured him that aiding you wasn't one of the many things I already regretted. I started changing my number a few times to make sure they couldn't find me. Blocked them on all relevant apps. People frequently question why I didn't just forgive and move on or try harder, but why should I? I discovered early on that I would never be the one they wanted at the table or the favorite. I gave up acting. You believe them when they show you who they are. Because I was difficult to manage, my mother always regarded me like a burden. Busy. I wouldn't merely comply. Being in the middle was something Norman enjoyed. It pleased Cassandra to be pampered. All Timothy wanted was serenity. Each of them played a part. I left because I was the extra. Norman's attempt to utilize my information without my consent was most likely the final straw. I discovered out when I contacted him after receiving a bill in the mail that had his name on it, but my address. He seemed to be unintelligent before responding, "Well, you never answer your phone." I had to take action. I promised to make sure he felt bad about it if he ever did it again. He ended the call. Mom yelled at me over the phone. I banned her number for a year after telling her I was done. So it's just me now. I have my own stuff and buddies. I never return, not for birthdays or holidays or anything else. I am occasionally asked if I miss them. Miss what? I ask, being excluded, being the fallback option no. I'm doing okay. Now I only think about myself. They also know where to look for someone else if they ever need something. This is where things become fascinating, though. For them, things are about to get serious. I won't lie either. I'm not even sorry. In the next section, I'll explain how I ensured they experienced what it's truly like to be excluded. The person waiting by the phone is no longer me. You'll want to watch what happens next, so stay tuned. If you've read this far, you're presumably aware that I didn't just fall asleep and go into full therapy mode or something. This is update number 2. No, people constantly pretend as though setting boundaries would bring you serenity or whatever, but sometimes it simply serves to highlight how much bullshit it is. You endured for years, and long before things became difficult for them, I began organizing my own retaliation. They always assumed they could simply throw everything on me and I'd roll over, but I don't let things go. No more. Norman's attempt to contact me as if nothing had occurred was the first strange incident that truly irritated me. He attempted to use my information to pay his own bills before this. Recall that he messaged me this week to say, "Hey, let's grab lunch and catch up." After about 3 days, I just left him on read. Then, as if family wasn't about keeping score yet, Mom sends this group text. I answered. Leaving your child alone for Christmas is also not a part of family. She accuses me of being emotional and claims that I am humiliating her. Once more, I blocked her. Norman made around 5 attempts to phone me. I choose to disregard it. After that, they get desperate. Cassandra's acquaintances and even some former neighbors began telling me, "Hey, your mom says you're ignoring her. Is everything all right?" Such as, "Keep other people out of this." I thus began to make it apparent that I was no longer the fallback option. I always declined their requests for assistance. Norman asked me to assist him with his next move. I advised him to get a job. I was requested to pay Cassandra's phone bill. "Pay it yourself," I said. When Timothy got into a quarrel with his mother, he wanted to come over here, but I told him to work things out. I had to do that. This is when things get more realistic. Mom began to struggle financially. She had always pretended that she would never have to worry and lived like she was on a reality show purchasing strange items. When Dad's retirement failed, they began liquidating their belongings. About co-signing a loan, Mom texted me. I chuckled and emailed her a screen grab of her previous communication stating that I was old enough to handle things on my own. She contacted me, left a lengthy message on my voicemail, and said that I was destroying the future of the family. I only kept it for amusement. Norman said that they made a concerted effort to play the guilt card. "Mom isn't feeling well, you know. You must assist." I said, "Perhaps you would have backup if you didn't constantly pretend that I didn't exist." Cassandra attempted crying and expressed her fear for her mother. I said, "Ask Mom why she didn't spend Christmas with me." For a while they gave up, but I wanted more. It wasn't only wine I wanted them to feel. I so began to perform the little things that would truly irritate them. First, there was an old family group chat that Mom used to keep everyone informed about essential things, such as who was bringing what for the holidays, or when we needed to pay the bills for items we shared, like the storage unit that held our old belongings. One day, I quit the group when Mom posted a picture of them having dinner without me, saying that she wished Jet was present. I said, "Too bad he's always so busy." "You made it obvious that I'm not required, which is why I'm busy." After that, I departed. I refused Norman's attempt to add me back since the storage unit was registered in my name. Since I was the only one who could obtain the good bargain, they had always just utilized it. I moved my belongings out, changed the code, and warned them that if they didn't receive theirs within 30 days, they would be thrown out. Mom texted a dozen times in a panic. I was called shouting by Norman. Cassandra attempted to intimidate me with her boyfriend. I threatened to discard it if they didn't pay me the outstanding rent. Norman attempted to arrive at my house. I warned him that I would get someone involved if he ever did it again. He took a step back. Mom paid the overdue rent a week later, but she included a scathing message about family. Money shouldn't be a factor. I returned families. It shouldn't involve abandoning your child. When they arrived to retrieve their belongings, she slammed the door. I began to lean heavily into it. Then, I allowed them to wait in case they ever needed a ride, tech support, or anything else. Norman once called me at 2 a.m. I suggested call Cassandra, since his car broke down on the freeway. He ended the call. Cassandra made an effort to coerce me into paying her taxes. "I'm not your accountant," I said. "Work things out." Mom shouted in the corridor as she attempted to arrive at my flat once more. I told her to go. She felt ashamed when the neighbors heard. However, Timothy pushed me this one time. I pushed him away when I wouldn't give him petrol money. He slammed the elevator door and rushed out. Mom called and screamed that I was destroying the family. I informed her that unless you needed something, the family was never together. They began to get increasingly desperate. One night, Cassandra contacted me in tears because she was having trouble paying her rent and her mother was refusing to assist her. "Sell your old phone or ask Norman," I suggested. She hung up after calling me a jerk. Norman attempted to have me approve certain documents. Dad and I declined. "You're going to regret this, Jet," he shouted, slamming his fist on my table in a fit of rage. I just advised him to go lost while laughing. He slammed the door and walked out. Then the big one arrived. As she had always promised, Mom sought to sell some ancient family jewels for the children. In order to divide the money, she needed my signature. "Funny how I'm now family when you need anything," I remarked. She slapped the wall on her way out after getting red in the face. Norman emailed me a picture of his mother weeping a week later and said, "You're breaking her heart." Perhaps she ought to have considered that before abandoning me, I added. For a month, he blocked me. I began to make it apparent to everyone that they would not be able to speak on their terms if they so desired. No more acting nice or lending a hand, if they had a desire. The answer was no. I didn't act rudely. I simply quit acting. At last, Mom began to realize that I would no longer be the one fixing things. On one occasion, she attempted to apologize, but it was more like, "I'm sorry you feel that way." "Save it," I said. She attempted to give me a family hug. Norman rolled his eyes as I took a step back. "I'm constantly in need of drama," Cassandra said. Timothy simply gazed at the ground. Norman's repeated attempt to use my name for a credit application was the final straw. After learning about it, I phoned him and threatened to prevent him from obtaining a loan in the future. He attempted to shove me. I pushed him away. Mom yelled at both of us. I simply picked up my luggage and walked out. I locked down everything, checked my credit, and changed all of my passwords. So yes, I made sure they always thought of me with regret. No more rides, no more assistance, and no more covering their filth. Whenever they tried to blame me, I simply ignored them. I forced them to repay me every bit when they attempted to take advantage of me, or else they would receive nothing. They detested the fact that I was no longer the backup. To cover my personal expenses, I even sold my portion of some ancient family property. Kept it a secret until it was finished. Mom went crazy. I got about 20 texts from Norman. Once more, Cassandra blocked me. The finest aspect, people began to take notice. The family's old friends would inquire as to why I was absent. People could tell even if Mom made false stories. Since I wasn't present, Norman became irate when no one showed up for his birthday. After I informed her friends the truth, Cassandra stopped receiving support from them. Timothy simply stopped talking. All of them are now alone with one another. No more fixers, scapegoats, or contingency plans, nor am I finished yet. The portions that really struck them come next, as in for true trust. You will want to watch the conclusion of this, the last update. In actuality, it goes down here. I'm not the kind to simply fade off and let others act as like nothing occurred, even though I know that many people undoubtedly assumed I had simply gone on and ghosted my family. As you can see from reading the preceding 3 sections, I wanted more than just distance. I wanted them to understand the pain they caused me, not just a little annoyance, but the whole sensation of being frozen out, humiliated, and rushing through the entire situation, and I eventually figured out how to make it happen. The strange thing is that last week, everything began so normally, as if nothing had occurred. Norman texted me to ask whether I would be attending this family gathering for Dad's birthday. You honestly think I'm going to come over just to sit there and act like we're all right, bro? I put him back on read. Mom then phoned 3 times in a row 2 days ago without leaving a message. Once more, I blocked her. I don't know what it is about her. It seems as though she considers phoning repeatedly. All right, so I received this very boring email from a lawyer's office, not even a practicing attorney. Just another one of those cheap internet requests for signatures. In order for your mother to sell a number of family possessions. She intended to cash out the old lake lot, it turns out. We lost our grandparents, the only valuable item on which the entire family has their name. Legally, all the children had to sign wild, so she couldn't do it without my signature. I feel like I'm family again all of a sudden. I didn't answer at all. Norman left a slew of voicemails accusing me of wrecking things when he attempted to call me about it. Mom was deteriorating. That's all. I started making plans because I didn't care. I pulled out all of my old documents and determined exactly what I owned, what I could sell, and what I could block. I recovered all of the old text chains, emails, and group chats. I removed my name from the household utilities, changed the passwords on the old shared picture drive, and made sure everything I had was locked away. Everything was now in Mom's name. For once, let her pay those late fines. I informed the storage facility via email that I was not liable for anything left in the unit. I called the bank and asked them to remove my name from the joint account that Mom used for family emergencies. I also instructed the tax office to forward all future correspondence to my mother's address rather than mine when I phoned. Don't help them out or hide their filth any longer. Norman, Cassandra, and Mom all freaked out and said I was being petty while the group chat blew up. I was removing food from their lips. Christmas would be ruined by me. Welcome to my world, I simply said. Screaming, Mom called. I ended the call. Cassandra gave me a lengthy essay about how I was ruining everything, and she always looked up to me. You mean that when you all abandoned me that Christmas, you all ruined me? I responded back. Crickets. This is the nice part. You mean the Lake Lord? It isn't only sentimental. It's the one thing that could help them escape their financial predicament. They knew it, I knew it, and I had the upper hand. Even Mom attempted to be pleasant, saying things like, "Let's get together and talk. You are still my son, though. You only remember it when you're in need," I remarked. She remained silent for a while before accusing me of being frigid. I claimed to have learnt from the greatest. The phone was slammed down by her. Norman called me again, growing angrier with each call. He once came to my house and pounded on the front door while shouting that I was destroying my mother's health and that she sobbed every night. I threatened to call the police for trespassing if he didn't leave. I pushed him back out the door as he attempted to push past me. He stated I was dead to him and called me a jerk. "Good, now you understand how it feels," I added. The door was slammed. It was a day before I heard from him. The lawyer then sent me another email yesterday, this time stating that they couldn't proceed unless I signed. "I don't want to help people who have never helped me," I said. Norman begged via text. Weeping, Cassandra called. I simply turned them all off. Mom made a final attempt and left a message expressing her forgiveness for everything. I nearly dropped my phone because I was laughing so hard. Then that occurred this morning. When I woke up, I saw 11 consecutive texts from Norman. First things first, all uppercase. "Then what did you do?" "She is weeping uncontrollably." "Then please just pick up the phone. She isn't eating, she's going crazy. This is not required of you. Why are you acting this way? Simply sign the fucking document. What's wrong with you? Please, 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 simply give her a call. Please." I simply sat there, looking at my phone, dongle, without responding. A part of me questioned if I ought to feel guilty. But then I remembered that 15th night, consuming cold bread by itself. Every time they left me out, I didn't even think about a text. I was always the backup, the extra, and the last thing on the list. No, I refused to give in. I switched the phone to quiet mode. Yes, I did leave it there. I didn't answer, like I had to. I let them work it out and didn't sign or phone back. Family's family, you should help, I know people would say. But where was that enthusiasm in me as a child? When they chuckled about leaving me for dead for a week, where was family? They may now sit with it, scurry, and experience what it's like to have the one person you always believed would help you say, "No, you're on your own." To be honest, I don't give a damn whether they're upset if Mom is sobbing or if Norman doesn't talk to me ever again. The days of eating cold bread by myself are over. Indeed, they are. That's all then. I received my Christmas at last. It was the one they deserved, not the one I desired.